Oh, there we are. I don't know why, but I was having trouble logging into Zoom. Can somebody confirm that you're hearing me?
I can hear you.
All right, good. Sorry for being late. For some reason, I was having trouble logging into Zoom, and I was trying to look up my information and see if I could try it again. I just decided to do it. Now, are you still there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I closed some windows and I couldn't see the Zoom meeting, so I wonder if I canceled. All right, let me start this. Sorry for being late. I don't know what was wrong with Zoom. Let's share the screen. I see somebody's got a chat message there. Well, let me warn you that I don't use the chat because when I use the chat, I can't see my screen. And when I'm showing my screen, I can't see the chat. And they suggested having two teachers to use Zoom completely. And there's just no way you're going to get two teachers. You're only stuck with me. So anyways, I don't use the chat. If you have a question, then ask in class or email me. Let me mention that I think I've already sent this out. I prefer you to use the Canvas email. I'll be checking that email at least every other day. And generally during the week, I'll check it every day. But during the weekend, I might not check it every day. But I'll be checking it quite frequently. If you email me to clark.edu, meaning the regular Clark email account, I will get it, but I won't be checking that email every other day. I'll be checking that email maybe twice a week. And the reason for that is that the Clark email, I get a lot of emails to it. Most of it's from other Clark people sending to everybody, and I'm just not interested in it. Some of it's from vendors outside of Clark, hoping that I will buy products from them. And anyways, my point is I get a lot of emails to that account, and most of them are junk emails. And that's why I don't use I won't be checking my clark.edu email frequently. So if you want to email me and get a quick response, please use the Canvas email. Any question about any of that? All right, let me close the inbox. I sent an email and inbox saying I was having trouble logging in. Let's go directly to the course website. Are you seeing the screen here? My screen?
Yes. Yep.
Course information. All right, so if you log into our course, you'll see this as our start page, and it has a bunch of useful information for our course. If you click on that, and I'll talk about the syllabus in just a minute, but that link goes to our syllabus. If you are ever having trouble with the Clark website or anything to do with the Canvas page or my page or whatever, you really need technical help. And this is for student and technical help. You can email me and tell me you have a problem, but unless it's a problem directly with my website, I'm not going to be able to really fix it. Am I being clear? Meaning if you have a technical problem, you need to contact the technical people. And I think they call that the computer help desk or hub, something like that. I will mention that there's one thing that you have to do for the class to do the quizzes. And if you don't get that to work, then you need to contact the technical help desk. You can contact me, but I'm not going to be able to really help you. All right. Anyways, modifying your Canvas site, some of the YouTube links, which I do have links in the lessons, but if you want to see just the videos on YouTube. That's how you can get all of them. Some information about Zoom. I think most of you are familiar with Zoom and the Zoom invite, which I emailed you. You need this to connect to Zoom. Oh, excuse me. This is the YouTube videos. The lesson for today and also for the lab, I will record those. And if ever you see that I'm not recording it, that red button there means that I'm recording. Let me know, because I need to record this. And what I will do for the students who are not able to attend our live Zoom session, I will put that up on my YouTube site, and that's what that link goes to.
So just a quick comment, the YouTube link that you have on Canvas, that did not work for me.
Let me take a look.
It didn't work for me either.
You got to click this second link up there. It's because it doesn't want to open this in Canvas because it's not a page in Canvas. But if you click that link above that page, it'll now take you to the YouTube page.
That worked.
That will happen whenever we're in Canvas and you're trying to go outside of Canvas. I think there's only one other time when we go outside of Canvas. Anyways, this is not from this term, from the previous term, these lessons. All right, let me close that down and close this down. Well, I don't really need that, but I'll keep that because I can use it for the lab later. Anyways, the Canvas website gives you a lot of information about our course, and it is ordered in the format of the course. This is just the general information. And you'll notice there's a link for the textbook chapters. I have the first 3 chapters of our textbook on my Canvas page, and then summaries of all the other chapters that we will, meaning the chapter summaries from the textbook, on my page. I cannot put the entire textbook on my Canvas website because there are copyright infringement, but I can put the first few chapters in case there's a case where the bookstore runs out of the book. Then you can use the textbook chapters. If you don't have the textbook yet, you can use the link here.
I have a question, Dr. Wu. So the textbook version, which one should we get? I mean, I was looking yesterday and I got a little confused. What edition do we need to buy or rent?
The bookstore sells the custom edition, which is a 3rd custom edition for our textbook. I'm trying to remember the name of our textbook. I'm drawing a blank on that. But you can also buy the full edition of the textbook, which is the 12th edition. And I'll talk about that when I'm talking about the syllabus, because I've got that information in the syllabus. So if you can hold off on that question until we're talking about the syllabus.
Thank you.
I talk about the textbook in the syllabus. And then you can use older editions of the textbook, but then you have to figure out which page numbers to do. Meaning on the syllabus, I tell you what pages to read, and you will have to kind of figure that out. It's not too difficult because you can find out what the topics are and then look up what pages to read. But you can use older editions of the textbook. That's not a problem. And you can use, I think the 13th edition of the text is out. We're not using it because we have not made an update on the custom edition, meaning sooner or later we'll have a 4th edition, which is the custom edition for Clark College. And they are the same textbook, with the exception the custom edition only has the chapters that we will cover. The full edition of the textbook has all the chapters, okay? Meaning the 12th edition. All right, and then after that is, oops, went a little too far, the section on the plagiarism tutorial. You need to do the plagiarism tutorial this week and take the Plagy quiz, the quiz on plagiarism, by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. This quiz is worth 20 points, but more importantly, if you don't get 100% on this plagiarism quiz, then you will get 0 on an assignment, which is a 100-point assignment. And let me just open it up because I'm trying to remember. It's the infectious disease project. So you must get 100% on this quiz. And if you don't, then you'll not get the 100 points for the infectious disease project. You'll get 0 for the infectious disease project. But the good news is you can do the plagiarization quiz, the plagy quiz, multiple times. You can actually do it for 7 attempts. And they're the same questions, although the question order may change, as well as the question answer order may change. So you can't just always go A, because the question answers change. Just their order number, not what is it? Not the text. Anyways, that has to be done by 11:59 p.m. this Saturday. Any questions about the Plagy quiz and the plagiarism tutorial?
No.
All right, this question, quiz, and tutorial will teach you about how not to plagiarize, and it also teaches you how to cite and then quote information you're using from a source and how to do that. And then I've got a class guide about how to use APA citation style citing, and that's the style that's used in the plagiarism tutorial. And then after that, we have lecture week 1. I have on this the study guide and the objectives. Sometimes I've got them together, in which case the objectives are just the start of the study guide. Eventually I'll break that out, in which case the objectives give what we're going to be covering in chapter 1 in week 1. So you can take a look at that. It's slowly coming up here. And you'll be quizzed on the objectives. I'm not able to do this for some reason. Oops, too far. There we go. Now the objectives just generally tell you what the objectives are. It doesn't tell you exactly you must study this, but obviously you need to know the vocabulary. You can explain how and why organisms are classified into 3 domains. So we'll talk about that, and what the 3 domains are. And you just have to know that. But once you know that, you can then explain how and why the organisms are classified into 3 domains. And you will be tested on the objectives. Any question about that? The study guide is what we will be doing in the lesson in a sentence or outline format. It's not giving it in a PowerPoint presentation, but it's the same material in generally the same order. Okay. So we'll start talking about understanding the role of microbes in our lives. The point is you have both the objectives, an overview, and the study guide for each of our lessons in Canvas. When we are done with the lesson, I will give you a PDF file of the PowerPoint, but you're not going to get that until after we are done with the lesson. The reason for that is I want you to take your own notes. The reason for that is there's much research to show that students learn best from their own notes. So take your notes and you will learn the material better than if you just read my notes. Another reason for taking notes is you're going to hear the information, and that itself will allow you to remember 10% of the information we cover, which isn't a lot, is it? But that's all it is. And that's true of, like, if you're just reading it, hearing it or reading it, you only retain 10% of the information. If, on the other hand, you take notes, because you're transferring the information from the part of your brain where you're hearing to the part of your brain where you're writing the notes, you actually will retain 20% of the information, which is 2 times better. So that's why you should take your own notes. Any question about any of that? Now, 20% of the information is not enough to learn the material for this class, right? 20%, you're going to fail if that's all you get on the quiz. So what do you need to do to learn the information? Come on, somebody's got to know. Like when you're practicing a piano piece, how many times do you have to do it before you actually learn it?
A lot.
Yeah, you have to do it a lot. Actually, you want to cover the material about 20 times before you will transfer it to short-term memory into long-term memory and then remember it at a very high percentage rate, meaning I'm talking about over 90%. And they've done studies on this mostly with middle school students. Don't ask me why they use that age group. And that's why we know it takes about 20 times. Now you're an adult and most of you actually want to learn this material. That's why you're taking the class. So you'll only have to go over it about 10 times to know the material. But 10 times is an awful lot. And so what you're going to need to do is hear it, write notes, that's only 2 times. Do the reading, that's 3 times. And then you have to go over your notes repeatedly, about 7 times before you will do so well that you'll get 90% or higher on the quizzes. And yeah, that's a lot of time and effort, I know, but that's actually the way most classes are. We also have a worksheet for our lecture lesson 1, chapter 1. It is due Saturday at 11:59, April 9th. Generally, we will have both a lesson for the lecture and for the lab, which is due 11:59 p.m. Saturday of that week. Any question about any of that? If ever there's a change, I'll put it in the schedule. Like one of the first lab assignments is actually due at 8 a.m. Friday morning, because I'm going to use that to take roll. And if students don't do it, I'm going to assume that you're not enrolled in the class, and I'll take attendance from that, and those students will be dropped. So if you don't want to be dropped from the class, make sure you get the first lab material in by 8 a.m. Friday morning. And the reason for that is I've got to submit, I think it's by 5 p.m. Friday. Of course, I'm going to the dentist on that day, but I have to submit that information by 5 p.m. to drop a student. And that's mostly for the students who enroll and then never, I don't know what you say, take the classes, and they just automatically rely on us to drop them. So I need to do that. It'd be best if the students drop themselves, by the way, but I will do that. Any questions about that? All right, here are 2 extra credit assignments. You can click on the links here. Extra credit picture, send me a picture of your face. It has to be a digital picture. And if you don't have one, you could scan a photograph if you have it, or you can just get somebody who has a cell phone, take the picture and then email it to yourself would be the best way. And then click on this link, and I can't really show you because I'm the instructor. I don't have I guess it's an upload link. You'll have an upload link right here to upload the picture. I don't have that link because I'm the instructor. I've got the speed grader link, meaning I download and can grade the assignment. There are a few requirements. It has to be a picture of your face. It's going to be made small. You don't need to make it small, but I'm going to put it in my grade book. So the picture will only be about that big, and that's about 1/2 of an inch big. No one will ever see it. I want to have your picture next to the grade book. So I'll see your smiling face whenever I'm putting in the grades. And I found that's a very good way for me to help me learn your names. I want to learn your names, and this is just a tool I found to help me learn your names. The other extra credit assignment is a study sheet. This is an Excel spreadsheet. Let me see if I can open this. Open it, and on the first sheet, put on your schedule. You don't have to have intimate details about everything. And if there's anything private, just put something like personal time from, I don't know, Saturday, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., whatever. Okay. And then for something like sleeping, I don't know, just put sleeping. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., whatever, or before that. It doesn't even have before 7 a.m. because I'm assuming you're sleeping. But I want your personal information so I can compare it to the next worksheet. Let's see if I can get that to work. We got to move this out of the way. There we go. So on log, this is going to be your personal information. On log 1, let's go to log 1, put on the times that you want to study for this class. So if you're going to be studying an hour before the class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you put 4 to 5 p.m. study time, okay? And on log 1, you do it for week 1. If on week 2 and week 3 all the way to week 10, it's the same, just go ahead and say the same for all of the weeks. But if it's different for week 2, put it on log 2. And if it's different for week 3, your study time, put it on log 3. Okay? And you can add more logs if you need to. Any question about that? And I'll compare the study time with your schedule to make sure you actually can do the studying. And generally, the only time I give a comment on that is if a student is spending far less studying than I think they need for this class. I'll just comment, you know, to do well, you need to study more time than you have scheduled. And I'm just warning you, you will probably need to find more study time. Okay? And you'll still get the extra credit, but the point is, send me your study time This is due by, I think it's Saturday. Close that. I give 3 points for your personal schedule, 3 points for your study time, and a -1 penalty if you're not clear, meaning I can't figure out what you're doing. I don't usually have a problem with that, but do state study time or something like that. And like I said, on your personal schedule, if you don't want to tell me your information, just say personal time, or you don't want to tell me that you're enrolled in another microbiology class at some other university, just put something like on your personal schedule, another class. You know, you don't have to be specific, just be general. So this is worth 6 points. Now the picture was worth 3 points. And those are 2 extra credit projects. They're both due, excuse me, the study sheet is due April 9th. The picture is due April 16th, which is a week later. A reminder that Plagy Quiz 1 is due this week. And then the lab, I'll talk about that when we get to the lab. And then week 2 lecture. I think on the lecture, everything is showing. I don't have everything in the lab showing because I don't want to scare you yet. I have almost everything showing. Yeah, week 5 lab unknowns is not showing yet, but everything else is showing. All right, that's our web page. Let's go and talk about the syllabus. I was having trouble logging in, so I'm not really quite prepared here. So let me find the syllabus. I'm not sure if I have it here or someplace else. It is here. Oh gosh, something happened with my background. I'm showing you my room. Normally I got the Clark College logo there, which is Clark College and a nice picture of it. I have to redo that. Well, fortunately, it's not a mess in my room today, although you're seeing a little bit of the bed. Which point it this way. I'm going to see this. There we go. All right. The syllabus information. This is not the right syllabus. Let me close this. Oh, it moved on. I should always watch when I'm clicking on. Don't know what that is. Oops, that wasn't good. I hope Microsoft isn't going to be a problem. All right, there we go. We'll close that down. I don't need that there. Let's bring that to the top. All right, so this gives you the class information when we're meeting, which you already know. You know, I should put on here my Canvas email address. Of course, there isn't an address to it, is there? You just use the link. So use the Canvas email. And then my office, which I'm not going to be on campus this quarter. So if you want to get together, let's do it by Zoom, and we can make it an arrangement online. The easiest to do it, time to do it, if you don't mind it being public, is doing it during the lab or after the lab is done. If you want it to be private, we can do it right after everybody's logged out of the lab, and then we can have a private, or we can make a specific Zoom session. Somebody asked a question about the textbook. So you can use the 12th edition, the green cover of An Introduction to Microbiology, and that's by Tutoria, Funk, and Case. I will warn you that they have come out with the 13th edition. We're not using it yet because our custom edition, interesting, it doesn't have the number there, but it's the 3rd custom edition. Oh, wait, there it is, 3rd custom edition. And they are the same textbook, the 3rd custom edition with the 12th edition. Just the custom edition doesn't have all the chapters. And then there you could rent the e-textbook or buy or rent an older edition. If you do take an older edition of the textbook, you have to figure out what pages to read, and I'll show you the syllabus just briefly here. It's at the very bottom. Come on. Most of the time I just have chapter. So where is it? Chapter 1, just read all of chapter 1. But occasionally I will have the page number, like on chapter 10, you're only reading pages 264 to 272. If you have an older edition of the textbook, or I suppose the newer edition of the full textbook, you will have to find out in chapter 10 where is classification of microorganisms, and then read that pages. Okay, any question about any of that? There are some optional texts. I'll let you read about that. I'll plug in that for the lab, the photographic atlas is actually very handy, but it is optional, and you can get pictures online as well as going to the library. The library course reserve has 3 copies of the textbook and 1 copy of the photographic atlas on reserve. And there are some optional texts. The only one I would recommend would be chapter 3 of the Get Ready for Microbiology textbook, which is an optional textbook. All right, some other notes on resources available to you. Please use the Canvas website. Let me go to Canvas one more time. I forgot to go to the announcements. Click on the announcements. I'm going to open it another page. Close that one. You come on the announcements. I have a number of announcements up already. Now that one can be deleted. Oh, I got this in mind. That was from a previous term and just rolled over. That can be deleted too. College resources of the week, the first message to class, some information about MESA, the pantry and student grants, some information on that, information on Excito, the Clark College Library website. Now I can remove 2. What to do to get a good grade. Somebody asked that question. I thought it was so good, I put it up as an answer. That one should be deleted too. I need to come in here and delete some of the announcements, but let's go quickly to resource of the week. They want me to show that at the start of every class, and it's actually a hassle, so I don't. But if you come up here, I've got a link to Clark College Resources of the Week. Every week they'll put a new resource up. And right now they have a link to the Penguin Pantry. If you wanted to get some free stuff, you can stop by the Penguin Pantry. And they do provide monthly food boxes to students in need. You have to be a registered student. And then some upcoming events like free school use supplies. Anyways, you should actually look at this. They will put a link up each week for the resources of the week. And generally, they usually put it up like Thursday night. Any question about any of that? Let me keep the announcements here because I got to clean that up. Remove Sony. I'll do that one right now. That's not even me. That's from Roberto. He's the lead instructor of microbiology. If you're wondering who Roberto is. All right, I think we're done there. Let's go back to the syllabus. I've got course description, student course outcomes. If you're interested in that, read it. Course policies and suggestions. If you're sick, contact me and I'll help you keep on track. We have an online course, but please contact me prior to any due dates to make arrangements for late work. Some information on preparation for class, attendance and participation. Actually, the only time you need to be participating is you do need to finish the first lab by Friday, 8 a.m. Okay, and get that submitted. Participation can be online. It's just you won't be able to ask questions. You'll have to email me questions. A little bit of the material about the quizzes. The quizzes are generally on Wednesday. They're due at 8 p.m. Wednesday. And you have to take them within 24 hours. So you can take them as early as 8 a.m. Tuesday night, but you must finish the quiz by 8 p.m. Wednesday night. So everyone has to take the quizzes within 24 hours. And that's something at Clark, the microbiology section, or it's not really department, but decided to do to reduce on cheating. You only have 24 hours to take the quizzes. For the essay and the essay and short answer questions, you may take the quiz at any point during that time, and you may have all of that time to answer the questions. For the multiple choice questions, they are quizzed. So once you start the quiz, and it must be done within 24 hours, so starting from 8 p.m. Tuesday night to 8 p.m. Wednesday night, you can take it any time at that time. But once you start, it's a timed exam. You have a little bit more than 1 minute for each question. So depending on how many questions there are, generally there's around 20 questions, you have something like about 25 minutes for most quizzes. And it's timed. It is timed so that most students can finish the multiple choice questions within the time limit. But if you're really slow, you might not finish. Most students generally do finish the quiz in time. This is an online quiz, so you can look up the answers. And that's why the multiple choice questions are timed. You have enough time to probably look up 1 or 2 questions But if you look up more, you'll run out of time in the quiz, and then any question you don't answer will be counted wrong. So you need to know the material before you take the quizzes. Okay? Because you won't have time to look up more than 1 or 2 answers. And I give you enough time to maybe look up 1 or 2 answers. There's one microbiology instructor. He designed his quizzes so that you can't finish the quiz in the allotted time. So that way nobody can look up answers. Okay? And I don't want to go that way because that puts a lot of stress on students. And I give you a little bit more than 1 minute for each question. All right, we're not going to be in class, so I'm not going to talk about wearing masks. Student responsibilities, you should pre-read the lab modules before lab, just because it will be very slow to get the lab done if you haven't read it beforehand. You should know the due dates of assignments. They are on the calendar. They are on the Canvas webpage. They are listed in the syllabus if it's not a regular assignment. Like I said, the lecture and lab assignments that are due at 11:59 p.m. Saturday, and generally it'll be due that week. It's every week, so that's not in the syllabus, although it's on the what do you call that? The Canvas calendar, as well as the Canvas website. You must follow the student code of conduct, and that applies especially the academic honesty, cheating, plagiarism, and other, what's the word there? Non-tolerant behavior will not be tolerated. You must follow laboratory safety rules, which is really easy to do on an online class, because the lab will be done online. All interactions should be professional, and that includes student to student, student to instructor, and instructor to student. We all must be respectful, even if we strongly disagree with each other. Some responsibilities with me: I will try and answer all Canvas emails within 48 hours. The Clark email, I'm just going to try and do it about every half a week. I'll try to have assignments graded within a week of the due date. That won't apply to really big assignments like your plagiarism, not plagiarism, your infectious disease project. It'll take me longer than a week to get that graded. Sorry, it's just that it takes time. And that applies to the first lab. Your labs are generally going to be graded 2 times. And I'll talk more about that when we're talking about the lab. So the first grading will be done about a week after you submit it, or try and get it done within a week. If you need to do course withdrawals, read about that. Late assignments, all work is due on the due date, time listed on the schedule. The penalty for late work is 25% reduction for the first day it's late, a 50% reduction thereafter until I turn back the assignment, in which case I won't accept it, or it's finals week. I do not accept late assignments during finals week. Student conduct, let me word you that plagiarism is a really big topic that students sometimes have trouble. You must not plagiarize. Plagiarism is extremely important. I know it isn't for most of your lives so far, but in college it is. And there was one sitting United States senator who some newspaper, probably the New York Times, looked up his record and then looked up his, I think it was his master's thesis, which was 20 or 30 years in the past, and discovered in his thesis that he plagiarized. The sitting senator had to resign his seat because of plagiarism. The point is, plagiarism is important and it is not tolerated in college. If the words are not your own words, you should put it in quotes and then state where you got it from. That is not plagiarizing. Okay, so if you're using more than 3 words from somebody else, you should put those words in quote and then state where you got it from. And this tells you must finish the plagiarism quiz by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. this week. If you don't get 100% on the quiz, you'll get 0 points out of 100 on the infectious disease research project. Cheating is also not tolerated. So when you're doing the quizzes or an assignment, you can work together. In fact, well, you shouldn't work together on the quizzes, but on the assignments, you can work together. But when you get an answer that you like from your study buddy, you should use your own words or put it in quotes and say where you got it from. Okay? I'll let you read about reasonable accommodations for religion and conscientious reasons. I'll let you read about etiquette for Zoom. Generally, I'll just boot you from the class if you're not following Zoom etiquette. Not boot you from the class, boot you from the Zoom sessions, what I meant. Some suggested study methods. Microbiology is going to be a challenging class because it's introducing a lot of new vocabulary, new concepts. You're going to have to do several assignments at the same time. You may feel stressed, especially in the middle of the term. It is normal. If you're having a difficult time, contact me and contact me early. Don't wait until the end, because by the end, I will have a hard time getting you caught up. Our class is normally going to meet for 3 hours of lecture a week and 4 hours of lab each week, or a total of 7 hours. You can expect to study for this class approximately 2 hours for each hour in class, meaning 14 hours outside of class. And that's to get assignments done, to do the reading, and then to do the studying. If external responsibilities prevent you from spending sufficient time on this class, it would be wise to consider taking the class during another quarter. I'll let you read about fundamental principles and how you can determine what kind of a learner you are. And also let you read about a list of suggestions that may help you in studying effectively. The number one thing is to go over your own notes and go over them repeatedly. Grading, 20 points for the quiz. Let's just come down to the table here. There will be 5 quizzes, but you get to drop the lowest quiz. And there will be a quiz A and a quiz B, but there are 5 quizzes. So 4 of them count at 75 points for a total of 300 points. There will be 1 lab assignment and 1, what is that called again? Something notes. Unknown notes. Assignment for a total of 10 assignments for 5 points each at 50 points. And actually that lab 00 and lab 01, I'm counting as 1 lab. They're actually 2 separate labs, but together they make the 10 point or 5 points. There will be an identification of unknown research project. That'll be worth 75 points. There will be an infectious disease research project that'll be worth 100 points. There will be lecture worksheets. That's your lecture assignments. There's about 10 of them. So they're worth 2.5 points or 25 points. And then there'll be a final for 150 points for a total of 720 points. That's not counting extra credit points. There will be about 20 extra credit points. Those extra credit points, you will get that information from files on Canvas. I've already pointed out to you, 2 of them are available now and will be for a week or 2. There will be a third coming up, and it's actually a repeating one that I'll talk about next week, because that's one that's first due. For your grade, if you get greater than 92%, you get an A. Greater than 90%, you get an A minus. Now let me warn you that Canvas has a slightly different grading scale. So our grades are a little different than Canvas grades. So you can see the grade in Canvas. And if you're ever borderline, just realize that our grading scale is a little different. Like I said, 92% or greater, you get an A. I think the Canvas grading website is 93% or greater. And you don't need to know that. Greater than 88%, you get a B plus. Greater than 82%, you get a B. Greater than 80%, you get a B minus, etc. Let me point out that there is no C minus that we give. So if you get greater than 70 points, you get a C. And there's no D minus or D plus, there's only a D. And a D is greater than 60%. Any question about any of that? I'll let you read about question review and written correction, microscope lab and virtual labs. I'll talk a little bit about that in the lab. And then I have a whole bunch of links, support services for students, like counseling, tutoring services. There is a link for tutoring and you can get it, go in live at Clark College. You can do it over Zoom. And I think there's 2 online links. I do not know if they have a microbiology tutor or not. Usually they do. A link to the library, disability support services, computer resources, and then a note about students who have trouble affording groceries or rent, that there is something you can apply to at Clark College. I'll let you read about the non-discrimination policy. We don't discriminate. School emergencies, procedures. I don't think we'll have any problem because even in the wintertime when we had bad weather, we have an online class. Some information, well, that's the lab information, safety information for students and physicians. We're an online class, so you won't be exposed to bacteria. Everything we do in the class will be biosafety level 1 or biosafety level 2. Words of advice and comfort. Sometimes instructors appear to be the enemies, and that's because we do have to keep standards. However, you should know that we want all of you to succeed. And as teachers, our job is teaching students. So I will try to help you. If you have any problems, complaints, or concerns, come and discuss it with me. Don't let it fester, discuss it earlier. If you don't want to be someone doing it over Zoom, and you don't want to do it over person, we can do it over email or something like that. Okay? Lab safety rules, I'll talk about when you come to the lab. And then at the very bottom of the syllabus, I have the tentative course schedule. On the left side, the far left, I got the week 1, what we're going to cover in the lecture. In the first side of the left, technology session, syllabus, tips for success, scientific vocabulary, and then chapter 1. And then on the right, we have the lab, which we'll talk about at 6:30. Any questions about the syllabus? All right. So important assignments, I've got the due date here on the syllabus. Generally, at Saturday at 11:59 p.m., like in week 2, we will have a worksheet to chapter 2 that's due, as well as a lab exercise or worksheet for lab 2 and lab 3, due Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Any question about that? So that's not on the schedule, but you can count on that every Saturday at 11:59 p.m. On the syllabus, I've got the quizzes up there. I guess I should mention a little bit about the practice quiz. Will be in week 2. It's a practice quiz. And the purpose of the practice quiz is to get you a little bit familiar with my quizzes, my questions and my quizzes, as well as get you to practice using the Respondus Lockdown browser, which you must use for the multiple choice questions. And I've got that on my website. I don't know why I skipped over that. There are some requirements on using Lockdown browser. You have to download this to your computer and then use it to take the quizzes, at least the multiple choice quizzes. And a link to getting the download, how to install it, which is pretty easy. And then what to do if it doesn't work. Essentially what you need to do is contact the computer help desk, because they're very good at getting this working on your system. Every term, not every term, every other term, about one student has trouble getting the Lockdown browser to work. And so far, the computer help desk has simply switched the settings on their computer and then gotten the Lockdown browser to work. And they will help you get that to work. Okay, if you're having trouble. Anyways, the point of the practice quiz is to get you to download the Lockdown browser and make sure it's working before you take the real quiz. Because if you wait until it's time for the real quiz, and then you have trouble with the Lockdown browser, you may not get it working until after the time limit for taking the quiz. Okay? Any question about any of that? Once again, I see there's a lot of chat boxes. I don't use chat, so hopefully you guys are chatting among yourselves. I think that's it for the syllabus. Close that. And let's go ahead and go to lesson 1. We'll get started on it. I normally have this up and running before class, but because I had trouble logging in, I didn't get that done. So let's open it. And that, I think I want to move to the top. So the first slide, well, this one just gives you an introduction. It's going to cover chapter 1 and part of chapter 10, the classification of microorganisms, which is 272 to 281. Those are the page numbers for the 11th edition of the textbook, or the second custom edition of the textbook. Normally on the first slide for a chapter, I give you an outline slide like this, where I give you a rough outline of how we're going to proceed, as well as the major goals. Now, this is not all of the goals. For all of the goals of chapter 1, you should look at the outline for chapter 1. And that will give you all of the objectives for chapter 1. Please understand there's going to be objectives for chapter 10, and that's right. Right there. Oh, no, it's in there already. Never mind. It starts with chapter 1 and then it goes on to chapter 2 at 10. Chapter 1. Objectives to chapter 10. So know the terms, know about a brief history of microbiology. We won't get to that today, and understand the importance of microbes. We're going to start by talking about the importance of microbes. Can I go to the side? No. I'll leave it up here. This is showing you the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen can start in the atmosphere. We're just going to start it here. The nitrogen can be fixed by a bacteria and archaea into an organic compound. The organic compounds can be used directly by green plants, but most likely the organic compounds are going to decompose when the bacteria and archaea die. And the organic compounds will be broken down into ammonia and ammonium. And ammonium just will be converted. These two will be converted to each other. Ammonia and ammonium can be used by green plants, but they don't really like it. And if you had too much ammonia, it would actually kill the plant. The ammonia or ammonium can then be nitrified by bacteria and archaea into nitrite. Nitrites can be degraded or changed to nitrates. Nitrate is the form of nitrogen that green plants really like. If you look on a fertilizer for green plants, you'll find that nitrates are one of the main ingredients. And then the nitrate can be converted into nitrogen in the air and the atmosphere. And there we've just finished the cycle of the nitrogen cycle. Okay, any questions about any of that? Well, the importance of bacteria and the nitrogen cycle is illustrated here. Wherever we have a red arrow, this step in the nitrogen cycle is happening because of a microorganism. And if you notice, most of the steps in the nitrogen cycle have a red arrow. So the step is proceeding because of a microbe. Any question about any of that? So most of the steps in the nitrogen cycle happen because a microorganism makes that step happen. And it's because of the microorganisms that the nitrogen cycle happens on the planet Earth. If the microbes weren't here, then the nitrogen, I don't know, would probably become an organic compound in an organism or a green plant. And then when that plant died, it would not ever be decomposed. And then the nitrogen would just stay there and would not recycle on the planet Earth. Anyways, this is showing you the importance of microorganisms. The microorganisms are largely causing the functioning of the nitrogen cycle. We've got a little more time. Let's continue.
Will these PowerPoints be available at the beginning of the modules, or is these the ones that are going to be available till after we do the couple sections?
They will not be available until we finish the lesson. I do have notes up for chapter 1, and it's giving the same information, It's just instead of in a PowerPoint, the notes are in sentence format.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Biogeochemistry, the making of soils. Microorganisms are actually important in the making of soil. There are some microbes that obtain nutrients from rocks, and they break down the rocks, leading to the formation of soil. Now, you should know that most soil is not made by microbes. Only about 20% of soil, depending on where you are, I guess, only about 20% of soil is made by microorganisms. The majority of soil are made by erosion from wind or water. But the point is that microorganisms are important in the making of soil. Any question about any of that? Another slide showing you the importance of microorganisms. Here we're looking at the level of oxygen in the atmosphere. Let's see if I can blow that up a little. Oops, got that. And you'll note, and we're following time on the x-axis, you'll note that initially in the Earth's history, for the first 2.7 billion years, there was no oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. And then around 2.7 billion years ago, oxygen started accumulating in the atmosphere. And that accumulation continued, although it slowed about 1.8 billion years ago. And then something like 580 million years ago, the concentration of oxygen increased again dramatically until we get the present day oxygen level, which is around 21%. The point being that oxygen levels in the Earth over history have changed. And why did oxygen first come into the atmosphere? It was because of photosynthetic microbes. Photosynthetic microbes like cyanobacteria made the oxygen and then released it, and that oxygen started accumulating in the atmosphere. And that happened 2.7 billion years ago when that first started happening. Even today, where we have oxygen about 21% in the Earth's atmosphere, green plants only make about 50% of that oxygen. The rest of the oxygen, which is half of the oxygen, is made by microorganisms. Once again, stating the importance of microorganisms in the current Earth, as well as in Earth's history. And we needed the microorganisms to put oxygen in the atmosphere before we could get green plants evolving, which then they dumped more oxygen in the atmosphere. Any question about any of that? All right, here we're seeing a picture of a sewage treatment plant, and it's obvious that humans have made this, and it's obvious that humans have made the wastewater by draining their sinks and flushing their toilets. And humans are degrading the sewage, breaking it down into the waste, right? Recycling it, right? Anyone object? Somebody should. Humans don't break down the waste that goes down your sink and down your toilets. It's actually the microorganisms which break down the waste and then recycle those ingredients. Most of that waste will be converted into CO2 and water. But the point is, humans make a sewage treatment plant, but we don't break down the waste. We just accumulate the sewage and then allow the microorganisms to break it down. Once again, telling you the importance of microorganisms on the planet, as well as the importance to humans. Microorganisms, let's talk a little bit about them. I've actually used both the term microbe and microorganism, and those two terms are used synonymously. They are organisms which are too small to be seen with the unaided eye. They can be single-celled. They can have many shapes and sizes. They include bacteria, archaea, also called the archaebacteria. They include yeast, molds, protozoans, and we'll talk a little bit about that. They're a eukaryote. Some algae, generally the single-celled algae and the ones you need to see under the microscope are a microorganism. However, the kelp that washes up on the Washington and the Oregon coast, that is not a microorganism. Any question about any of that? Microbes also include viruses and prions, but these last two are special because they do not include cells. Okay, they are a microbe. And in a sense, viruses and prions are not organisms, but some people call them a microorganism. They're not an organism, so I don't use the term microorganism. And they're not an organism because they don't have cells and whatever else cells have. Microorganisms are almost everywhere, so we say they are ubiquitous. You find them almost everywhere. They play beneficial roles in numerous processes on the planet Earth, and numerically, they're the most abundant life form on the planet. Now, I've talked briefly about a cell. Let me talk a little bit more about what is a cell. A cell is the basic structural and functional unit of all organisms. So I'm talking about a cellular organism, an organism that is composed of cells. And as I mentioned, viruses and prions do not have cells. So I'll call them a microbe. Cells are highly organized structures. They're a compartment bounded by a thin, flexible structure that we call the plasma membrane. And cells contain three components. First, they contain the plasma membrane. Second, they contain cytoplasm. That's the fluid portion within the prokaryotic cell, I'll word it that way. And within the cell, outside the nucleus of a eukaryotic cell. And we'll talk a little bit about that, so you don't need to write that down now. And then cells have one other ingredient. They all have DNA as their genome. Those are three components that all cells have. A thin, flexible membrane that we call the plasma membrane, cytoplasm, and DNA. The DNA is for its genome. If we were to look at where microorganisms are, I'll just go very briefly through this. They're obviously on the plants, in the water, they're on the rocks too, and they're in the ocean water, and they're in the air too. You can find microbes up in the atmosphere, up as far as about a mile up. And that's just a very small microbe that's blowing around in the wind or the air, and especially the spores. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the term. The spores can be airborne and go quite high. And you can find them in the air about a mile up. You can also find things in the ground or in the bottom of the ocean. You can find microorganisms, and generally you can find microbes down about a mile. Did I say up about a mile? Good. I was wondering if I said something wrong. So regardless of where you are on the planet Earth, from the surface, you can go down a mile into either the soil or into the ocean floor, or you can go up a mile into the air, and you can still find microbes. You can find microbes all over this person and all over this cat. You can find microbes in the Sahara Desert, everywhere. And you can find microbes everywhere in this picture, except in the lava of this volcanic vent. This is too hot to contain microbes, but you could find on the rock out here, or maybe the snow and rock, you could find microbes out here, but not where the lava is red hot. Any question about any of that? You can find microbes everywhere, or almost everywhere. Like I said, you don't find it in lava or magma. And let's go ahead and stop here, and I will see you in the lab. Any questions before I log off? All right, I'll see you in the lab at 6:30.